so I can't use it.
So today, we're going to chat about different ways to cleanse and purify for not only your sacred space, but also objects. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about different circle casting techniques and things that I do. Okay. So the first thing is, why would you want to cleanse or purify any object before you use it? And that's because everything just collects schmutz. It just does. Exactly. Different energies. You don't know where it came from. Let's say you have a found object that you think is going to make a great wand, but how do you know how it was treated before you picked it up? So you wouldn't want, say, a wood wand that was torn from a tree in a hurricane if you're planning on casting a healing, peaceful circle, because they don't work well together for some strange reason. You get all the energy there and you're trying to bend the purpose. So you really do want to cleanse and purify things before you start to just pick them up and use them. And that includes your space. Okay. So the first one we're going to talk about is the most popular, everybody's favorite. We're going to talk about smudging. Don't do it. There, done. But the thing is, for some crazy odd reason, pagans, Wiccans, witchcraft people have taken this, which is actually someone else's very sacred right.
They're right there.
Yeah. Okay. And have tried to claim it. But at the end of the day, that's not what we do. What we do has its own term. It's called sensing. Okay? It is different. It is still a smoke-based ritual, but it's not smudging. So please don't do it unless you have a right to do it. Okay? Sensing it's a term that comes from like a European background. It's been recorded through tons of different cultures, places, peoples, and it's very generic. And basically what it comes down to is the use of smoke to purify. So to me, sensing, when we start talking about that, the first thing that comes to mind is those great big Roman Catholic sensors.
I was gonna say, link them in there.
Yeah. And they're even the patterns they use have for them and their particular ritual, even the patterns they use have a meaning. Okay.
What about that from?
Lots of different people use it. It wasn't just us. Okay. So I actually have a sensor myself, but it's not one of the swinging type.
Right.
And for this, I actually use with resins. So I prefer to use resins in this one. This right now is a mix of frankincense and myrrh resins. Trying to get some out there. And I use a charcoal, a quick lighting charcoal. And once you place it, the smoke actually rises from the different apertures. And it makes very pretty streams and gives you a point to focus. It's also easier to carry because I'm not going to burn the crap out of myself. Okay? So anytime you want to use sensing, you want to be thinking about how you're going to do it because you don't want to burn yourself. Hence the chains on those nice long things. So I'll be happy to pass around the frankincense and myrrh on the inside if you want to take a look at that.
It's like a Kill Bill movie.
I'm sorry?
It's like a Kill Bill movie, that thing.
Yeah, I know, right? It could be. You got to be careful with it, right? So this is one of those things. It's an open practice. Anyone can use it. It has historical references to what I like to call the way back times. So way back in the wind, lots of people do this. The easiest way to do this is to take your choice of loose herbs in a small fireproof container, which again, here's another one. Got myself a little cauldron. This is not necessarily one that I would take and walk around with because there's no safe way to carry it. It's metal. It's going to get hot. So I'm going to use this if I'm going to fill a room with smoke or something of that nature. Again, I'm going to use that quick lighting charcoal. Okay, so this is basically it's charcoal. It's imbued with a lot of saltpeter. You hold it to any flame, and it's going to light up very quickly. Okay.
Reminds me of when I was doing stuff at my old place at one point. I realized that my little cauldron was getting hot, so I have a plastic bowl that I have a lot of water in, and I was using that.
Okay, that works. That works.
As a fire break.
Any way to keep it safe. So another good way to do something like that, a bowl with sand. Sand is a very good way to do that. Protect yourself, protect your surfaces. Think about what you're going to be doing this on beforehand. This is a wooden table. I wouldn't want to start smelling that extra wood smoke as well. It's just not really the thing I'm going for. Okay. So you can light the small charcoal and you can use a powdered herbs or you can use woods. One of my favorites actually is cedar dust. This is actually one of my favorites right here. So For me, it's a very cleansing. I'm from the Pacific Northwest. I grew up out there, so there's when you grow up doing things as a kid or smelling certain smells, those are the things that just take you back and calm you down, and help you smooth yourself out. And for me, this is one of those as well. So yeah.
For me, it's crushed pine needles.
I was gonna say, I have had pine resin in the past I use, but always when it's just found. So it's, I never buy it. I just find those nice crystallized pieces, hang on to them because they make great incense. So you can also bundle up your dry herbs. Most common you see are sage sticks. Okay, I'm not saying you can't use sage. There's a difference between saging and smudging, as we all know. So saging, but avoid the white sage. There's no reason for us to use that in particular. It's at this point it's becoming endangered. Is that right?
Because it's being over harvested and it's going to eventually be extinct because people are jumping different lines and different property lines and just ripping the whole plant out instead of actually cutting it correctly.
So it is being disrespected. It's just not right. There's plenty of other things. Any regular garden sage, you're going to get the desired effect if you're using it correctly. Okay. Or you can also do a pre-made incense. So this is the quick and easy. They say you don't got to be rich to be the witch, so you just need your little tiny one and your little cone. You get them at the dollar store. You get a little 10 of them or so. If it's a scent that you enjoy, then go ahead and use it. It's going to work. But again, something that is safe to move around with. So what you want to do with these in particular, you're going to get yourself a nice bundle of smoke going, whatever the case may be. If you're doing an object, so let's just say that you have your wand that you want to cleanse or purify. Once you get it going, you're going to be passing it back and forth through. I'm actually not going to light anything because I know it's an inside space and I don't want to kill anybody tonight. But,
Appreciate that.
the way that goes. Yeah, Mike. So you're going to pass it back and forth slowly through while envisioning what you want to do. So you're going to get rid of your smuts this way. Okay. Some really good ones to use. For cedar, we talked about. Cedar for purification, blessing, protection, helps to expel negativities. Pine resin, another one, purification just is also good for health and fortune and fertility. If you think about it, pine is a very fast growing tree. It's a very fertile tree.
They grow up so fast.
Lavender for calmness. Lavender to me is wonderful. Just that great smell. So sage, again, not the white sage, just use desert sage, use any type of nice dried sage that you enjoy. Peppermint for clarity and for just a general reset and refreshing. Rosemary is a good one. That's another favorite of mine. Burning it fresh or dried, either way, is just it's a very cleansing. It's a protective herb. It's an invigorating herb, and it's also very good for clarity, mental clarity. Okay. Juniper is another one. Okay, we're going to talk about something specific with juniper here in a minute, but it's for protection and expelling negativity. And frankly, just about anything that you think smells good is going to work. Okay. So another form of smoke cleansing is something that's called seining. So seining, it's got several different historical references to it. There's one form is jumping the fires of both Samhain and Beltane, okay, or the driving of cattle between two fires, the burning of bogwood. So a lot of this goes back to Celtic lore. So the burning of bogwood that's been stuffed with straw to make it nice and smoky. You take it and you would lay it around your field and light it with your sacred fires and let it get nice and smoky. So basically you're drawing your boundaries. You're showing the spirits of the place that this is the area I wish to protect. You're cleaning your field. You're getting it ready for what it is you want to do. Okay. All of these, another one is burning what's called a pine candle. And today we know this as fat wood. So fat wood is that nice, when a pine tree goes down, those very centerpieces that are high in resin, you can actually burn them like a candle. A lot of people use them to start fires with. This is a great natural
The
fire
core
starter.
wood.
Yes, the core wood. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Okay. So taking that, an old custom of taking that and encircling a child bed when a woman is in labor to protect the child from the spirits. We don't want any changements. Right, and then the last one, and this one I found was really, really interesting. Using specifically juniper, and this was a Scottish custom. It would fill, so back in the way back times, a house wasn't just a house. That's where your cattle hung out, your dogs hung out,
Right,
your
yeah.
people hung out. Everybody was in the same building, okay? So throughout the years, the year goes by, you've got everyone coming and going. It's your spirits are coming, they're going, bad things happen, good things happen. But every year you need to clean it out and start over fresh again. So you close everything up, all the windows, all the doors, everybody's inside with you. And you bring in dried juniper. And you start letting it smolder next to your fires, your different fire hearths. You just sit in there with this juniper, it's filling up and it's filling up, but it makes a very acrid smoke. Until the point where you cannot handle it anymore. So you're choking on this smoke. And then all of a sudden you throw open the windows and doors and everybody out. Because with that smoke and everybody coming out, any negative spirits, any negative emotions, they're also leaving. You're starting over fresh again. Okay? So, yeah, run. So if you can't handle that smoke, neither can they. So it helps to clear the spaces and it makes it ready for just a new year. So we're making everything clean and clear again. Okay. Liquids can be used for the cleansing of space and objects. So that is called asperging. So asperging, you can use water, you can use moon water, sun water. It's a great way to do it. You can add some dried herbs to it. You can add a little bit of salt to it. You can use wine. You can use distilled spirits. You can use body fluids. Think about that one for a minute. So Passover, what did? They painted the lintels with the blood of the lamb. Body fluids, it was blood, to signify that those in the house were blessed. It's the same thing. It's the same action, just in a different culture. So again, this is something that you find through many, many different cultures and places.
It really depends. So someone I would say that it would become a little bit more personal and powerful because you're using your own personal body fluids, and that includes your women with their menstrual blood or men with their semen. And it's, yeah.
It depends on your intent and where you're going and what you're doing with it. As simple as that.
I've heard a lot of like a lot of on the Wiccan and pagan Facebook group. A lot of women you do use their they'll save their menstrual blood and instead of using a pad or something, they'll use the menstrual cups. So that way they can collect it and then save it and then use it for purification and on a full moon or something like that.
If that's their practice, it's something that could definitely work.
Yeah.
But it's definitely individualized. But again, so asperging is basically the sprinkling of this liquid. It's not like I'm going to take it and I'm going to chuck it over my shoulder and call it good. Oh, I just purified it. I'm not tossing out fabuloso here. It's doing it with intent. So a lot of times you can with your fingers and sprinkle just a little around,
Just like the holy water.
Yes. See, everybody does it. One of my personal favorites though is the herb bundle. Okay? This is a great one. So if you take, and especially in advance, you can take your herbs and just let them sit in your water. It's what you and do together. The oils and those herbs are going to come out in there. And using that and doing the same thing, the asperging. So, and it helps to set up your intent. So behind all of these actions, it's what you do with them. We're gonna get to that in a few minutes. Another interesting one, sound. This one is not my favorite just because I tend to be sound sensitive. Loud noises or certain pitches are to me. So
Yeah,
to me, it doesn't work well. It
Nails
doesn't
and
work well for
chocolate.
everyone. Yes, nails and chocolate.
Like crystal balls.
However, we've all heard, I was just gonna say crystal bowls, for some people, not good. I do find them interesting for short periods of time. The sound, they create vibration. Right? So it could be something as simple as you walk your circle to clear your space, to let them know what you're moving through, you move your intent. It can be, we use a gong sometimes to announce our intent and to clear our space. Could be horns. We do that frequently. Carl does that for us because it announces our intent.
Is it like cleansing the sun waves?
Yes, it's exactly what it is. So you set up a positive vibration to repel a negative vibration. So it's a cleanliness.
In horse magic, you do that with howling.
Like the sound waves and like sound vibration.
Well, it's also in Buddhist, the sound bowls, the monks use, and they would.
Yes, yes. And strangely enough, and I just discovered this, you know, as I was doing some more research. The juniper, the sating with juniper is also something that's done in the fall, actually.
I would have to-
Not surprised because it grows very, very,
Specifically with Scabies Mountains.
Yeah,
It was very, I was reading about it.
it grows wild.
Sure it does. So there's one thing that, you know, everybody talks about. I'm gonna make my circle with salt. There's some terrible things gonna happen. So salting the earth is actually a punishment. It's very bad. It's poison. It's salty. Yeah, it is salted. But a lot of young baby witches find that, you know, oh, they hear about, oh, I'll make my sacred, you know, they watch, what was that movie? Come on, guys, help me out here, the movie where they did the, yeah, thank you, the craft, and they make it all.
Or worse,
Yeah,
or
or
worse.
charmed, yeah.
or worse, that Halloween movie with the three sisters.
Oh, yeah.
Focus,
Focus, focus.
Hocus Pocus,
Hocus pocus. Oh, I still want to see somebody ride the vacuum.
still one of my favorites.
Okay, so salt, it has its places and it has its use. Okay, a little bit is a good thing. Adding it to your water when you're asperging can help with that. But the other thing salt does too, besides acting as a poison, as an insult to the ground, it also just absorbs. Think about it. When you leave salt sitting out on the counter, what happens? Especially around here, it's nice and rock hard, right? It's absorbing the moisture. It absorbs other things as well. So basically, if you think you're purifying with salt, all you're doing is laying a sponge to invite all that stuff right back in. Okay? Yeah. And now it's gonna settle in and stay. But you gave it a nice place to live, right? So you really, it does have its place. You can use it as an ingredient, but you don't want it to be your main item.
Or if you do it, you're using it to capture and then get rid of.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
Timmy has something.
I was gonna say that, like you think about like, before they had, you know, like with meat, they used to put salt on their meat so they would preserve and last longer.
Yes.
And
Salty.
so, yeah,
Mhm.
they used to put it on there so that way when they hung it outside after they killed it, like game and stuff, usually they put salt on it
To dry it
to
out.
dry it out, and then it lasts longer because that was before like refrigerators and. and
hopefully
electricity.
they,
And another.
Anne is asking, what is the best way to utilize salt?
As an ingredient in something else. So a lot of times for myself, when I asperge, I actually add a little bit of salt to the water because I also use salt as adding the element of earth
that's
to
what
the
I, yeah, I've
water,
done
so
that before,
combining the
yeah.
two elements together to make them stronger. But it's a very small amount. It's not, I'm not putting a cup of salt in there, but tiny little bit as intent.
Yeah, I've done that when I'm making moon water. I take a pinch of salt. I only have a small pinch, but I put it in the water and start stirring what I have, clockwise.
Right, so
and
it's so when you use it as the element of earth to add to your water to combine your elements, which we're going to do shortly, that is you're taking two things together, and making it stronger, using it as a grounding as well.
Earth and water equal life.
Yes.
And when I was young, my grandmother taught me not to use salt, but to use less dirt or use sand
Yes.
instead of
Mhm.
salt
Yeah.
for your circle and your protection.
Yes.
Yeah, I was taught the same thing.
Yes. Yes. Using sand is
Sand.
a great one.
Yeah, whenever I come across a cell that says use salt, I always just go straight
The,
to sand.
the only issue with sand, mind you, this is large volume, so you can actually start getting in trouble for taking sand from beaches.
Well, yeah, but you take a handful from,
Yeah,
no one's gonna know it's a handful. They're gonna know it's a
Yeah.
rock.
but
So
so
you can't like
Yeah.
take a sandbag and go.
you can't take like 5-gallon bucket there.
No, but you
I
can
mean, if
take
you've
a
got enough
handful.
after a hurricane, maybe.
Or wherever you're doing it, just pull up some dirt from the ground where you're standing. I find it works better
Absolutely.
if I just take from wherever I'm standing. Like if I'm out in the yard, I'll
Much better.
take a little bit of dirt from.
I
the
think
ground.
I think that's better also, because instead of, that's
I try
exactly.
not to transport it, 'cause you don't know what's traveling while doing transport things too far.
That's right.
Because, in the Carolinas, we have Carolina red clay.
Yes.
And the sand, if you're doing a circle, if you're using dirt that's red, you're not going to be able to see the circle. That's why my grandma always used the white sand that she will get and do the circle so you can see where you're going.
That
I
makes
don't like
sense.
your red
That
clay.
makes sense.
Your red clay
And it's
is
still temporary enough that you can move it out. So, yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Okay. So just remember, salting the earth actually was a real punishment. It was done to punish crimes or cities for either real or imagined.
Yeah, they're sprinkling it all over their
Slights.
fertile grounds, they're basically killing
Correct.
plant life.
Kills everything, and it
It-
takes a long time to
it's-
come back from that.
It's the Roman, it's one of the disgusting things that the Romans did.
Mhm.
Well, it probably didn't do as much as it's said,
Probably.
because it's very unlikely they salted the entire city of Carthage, for example.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was symbolic field or something.
Yeah, I mean, it was more like it was a symbolic punishment versus salting the actual entire city. That's a lot of salt.
They might not have that much.
History is written by the
salt
winners. and-
was the
Always.
money,
Always.
by the way. Salt
Well,
was the
yeah,
money
so-
because it
Exactly.
preserved food.
Mhm.
Yeah.
For a while there, I was using my pasta water to water plants.
Oh,
And I realized a very beloved and favorite plant died.
ow.
And I realized I salt my pasta water.
Yeah,
And
don't do it.
it's
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that.
And there's a reason between the ocean and the land, there's that sand in the middle.
Yeah.
There's that
No,
grade right
And there's
there.
plants that can actually survive.
There
salt.
are some, yeah.
There are
Not
some,
as
but
many.
you know, it's like you don't want, I thought I
Yeah.
was being conservative, you know, water conservation and not wasting water. I was, that was my idea and it failed
Well, you
horribly.
do that for the
Are you
plants
talking-
of the people you don't like.
There you go. Do it on the bad plants. Do it on the bad
Right,
plants.
go on the, hey,
If there's.
there's a few that my
Well,
husband won't get rid of. Think I'm gonna do that.
I was thinking your neighbors.
Invasive plants, the ones that don't. buck
Yeah,
thorn.
exactly.
Kill the buckthorn.
Affordable.
Kill the buckthorn,
That-
there we
that
go.
healthiest thing there is.
So here's another really, this one's popular. Everybody knows about this one, right? So we're gonna talk about sweeping the circle. Okay, so the witch's broom, the basin. Funny thing is, speaking of schmutz, so these, your broom collects all the schmutz, is what it does. Everything, you sweep it up, that's the purpose of it. So when you're in your circle, you never actually wanna have it sitting like that after you swept with it, because all you're doing is, guess what? Shaking it right back out, putting all the schmutz right back where you got it from. So you always wanna stand up. Okay, so when you'll find, in my circle, what you'll find always is it's standing up. With the bristles upwards, okay?
Yeah, it's.
So a broom can be made from, a basin could be made from a whole bunch of different things. Bundle of sticks. You could even technically call that a basin if that's what you need to use at that time. Made from herbs, dried, fresh. Somebody here makes some beautiful basins. They all do the same thing. So it's all about the space you have and what you can do with them. In my tradition, Blue Star tradition, we do have the staff and we have a bundle of herbs and sticks and a particular color of cord, and they're built a certain way, and that works for us. It doesn't mean that everybody has to do that, because the only wrong way to do this is the way that doesn't work. And that's the honest truth about all of this. The only wrong way is the way that doesn't work for you. Okay. So. Yes.
Well, I've heard
So,
that, no, I was saying that I've heard that old school witchcraft, it was considered prosperous and good luck to hang the broom in your houses all up with the bristle side up.
Keeps all the junk up.
Yeah.
Keeps the junk from falling back down where you don't
Yeah.
want it.
And you put it over your door to make sure nothing unwanted can come in.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about
Yeah.
that.
That's another one. If you ever,
There's-
well, there's a protector up there, so it's good.
Yeah, we're.
Wow, this
covered.
place is already like dragons.
covered.
and dragons.
Well, my door has one.
So the best way for me to describe, sweeping in a circle, you're always gonna want to start from the inside and move to the outside. Inside to the outside. Okay? Going through And imagine, sweeping up. Sometimes you really are sweeping your leaves. Sometimes you're just psychically sweeping your leaves and collecting anything else that's with you. So it's a symbol of cleaning your house. And you're always gonna clean your house before company comes over. I'm sure you guys were busy today doing the same thing.
I was, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So before we do anything else, we're gonna clean our house before we start inviting other people to show up. I'm gonna do that by sweeping it. Whether it's a large one, a small one, or a bundle of ropes, they all work equally well. Okay. A lot of times while doing that, there's especially for the new folks, if you're a newer baby witch, adding incantations work really well for that. There's it's gonna read about when you're speaking rhyme. Okay, so the reason, and again, the only wrong way is the way it doesn't work. The reason to start with that is because it makes it easier to remember. It makes it practice. It makes it rote, so that once you have mastered skills, you no longer truly need to do that because it's almost an automatic for you. So folks have been around for a while, you'll find they can move through things very quickly, and you'll find baby witches tend to stumble a little more or be a lot more elaborate or do a lot of rhyme, but it helps to remember and it helps to build.
So there is, it's science has actually shown that the repetitive mantra of rhyming through a sing-song method is actually very therapeutic. They're not gonna say magical because they don't understand, but it's as open the same concept of when people in basic training in the boot camp or Army Marine, they will say a various mantra as they're exercising, and all of a sudden it's like they can start walking, and these people just starting out who are not used to those 4-mile hikes, whatever, but they're doing this mantra and it gets them going, and it's actually they're able
Put them to a
The
rhythm.
marching chant,
Yeah.
the marching chant.
Put you in a rhythm. I mean, come on, who doesn't
Some of
remember
those
one
are-
fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish?
Well, there's
Some
a
of those
reason
marching
that's
songs
why
are-
the ancient epics are usually written the way they are, with repetitive verses, repetitive phrases
Makes
like
it a lot
Homer's
easier to
wide
remember.
dark sea and rosy finger dawn. Those
Yeah.
phrases come up all
Like where we
over and
went.
over
Mhm.
because there's a way for the poet to go, wait, this is what comes next.
Yeah.
Correct.
Try help
So
to
it's the
remember
little
them.
line that's gonna bring it on out. Okay. All right. So once we do all those things, and just as a little sidebar, anybody know what else makes a really great case here in Florida?
Pine, palm fronds,
Because they're everywhere.
No.
So if you're ever in a pinch,
just find the nearest palm frond.
you're gonna be fine. There's all sorts of things everywhere that you can find, so you can bring your natural elements into it. Yeah.
If you're in the, if you're in the Northwood, just find a pine branch.
Yep, that'll work. So once we've done those things now, so we've talked about, sensing and asperging and we're sweeping. So basically we've created this nice, beautiful, open space, right? The next step would be to cast our actual circle. So again, the only wrong way is the way it doesn't work. I was taught to always use wood. Never use an acme to cast a circle. Wood for building, metal for tearing down. So what I was taught. Doesn't mean, 99% of the time here, we're using an acme to cast a circle. It doesn't mean it's wrong, it just means it's different.
I always learned that the alchemy was simply always for cutting through energy and never to be used physically. There's another tool for that, but I've also, yeah, the one handle. I've also been known to cast circle with my dominant hand. Well, okay, so for those people who practice more ritualistic form of witchcraft, which I have a tendency to do, it also works with the dragon magic. But however, having said that, you start viewing your hands and your fingers as energy, circuitry, and planetary kind of things. So you want to cast your circle with the dominant hand, with the 2 inner fingers, and work energy that way as well to cast those circles.
And that's where the use of these tools eventually leads us.
Mhm.
Well,
Which is where we go.
think of how Moon and I open our circles.
Right, yeah.
Absolutely. So this is my particular wand. It's Pussy Roll, and one thing Harry Potter got right is every wand is particular to the person. So, it's also a little bit particular
The
to the
wand
intent.
chooses the wizard.
There you go.
Just remember, great wands come from both companies.
And I actually have a couple, but this is the preferred. I do have one of those nice wind hurricane swept wands, I should say. Found it after Wilma, actually. It was very interesting for particular types of work, protection type work. It actually works very well for me. So, but yeah, the wand is generally particular to the person. And again, so when casting a circle, speaking in rhyme, and especially starting out for baby witches, honestly recommend walking 3 times. Walking 3 times clockwise, sunwise, Dioso, 3 times, because it's signaling intent. And you gotta look at it as building. So the first time you walk around, and again, using a dominant hand.
Yeah.
Well, I'm right-handed, so it would always be right. So I'd always be cross-body for that. Using first time downwards, because we're building a foundation, okay? We're starting here, we're pulling from the ground, we're building a foundation, because the intent of a circle is to separate yourself in space and time. Okay? You're separating yourself from you're signaling to separate yourself from the mundane into the spiritual for communion with your gods. So starting the first time, build your base. What comes next? Build your walls, bring it up, bring it around. And what comes next? Build your roof, seal it off. Okay? These things work easiest, again, if you're speaking in rhyme, say it as you walk around, learning and teaching yourself. And pretty soon, like the man says, eventually you'll be able to just walk through and use your own energies to draw these things forth. You don't need the tools. The tools help you.
And
the real tool is actually yourself.
FYI, you can also, once you learn enough about it, like Jen is saying, you can even cast circles and move within those circle bubbles, put it over your car when you're driving, or put one over yourself and walk with it over you kind of situation. Yeah.
You can. It's going to take a lot of your own energy to move those.
Yeah, that's,
move
yeah,
those around,
exactly. Yeah.
Especially if you're building from the ground up. Okay. So there is a particular set of etiquette that goes with moving in and out of a circle. Okay. So some circles are cast with a definitive doorway, which might be delineated by, say, 2 torches. And all entry will be through the 2 torches, or exit will be through the 2 torches.
Like we did 3 years ago now.
It could be that there is a particular seneschal or a summoner that is a designated person to open and close a doorway through the circle.
Circle
Okay.
guardian.
Circle guardian, right? Or it could be that it's built to such a way that, and there are some that will say this, we call them hard guards.
Yeah. It's
Once it's cast, you don't leave. There's no point. Why did you do it? Don't do it, because if you leave, you're breaking it, something bad is gonna happen.
yeah, I've heard that too.
That sounds like me.
It does, and I've always been taught
So
that,
go to the bathroom first. No.
that animals and small children are the only people that can go
That's
through the
the next
circle. Yeah.
sentence. That's the next sentence. So, you know,
Mhm.
oh, that and fools.
Well,
Well, I mean, honestly, if you're casting this circle
Mhm.
to keep anything out and for all these protective reasons or whatever else, then you're just gonna go walk through it and let everything in. Why bother?
Back exactly. That's what I'm
That's
saying.
exactly where I'm going.
It's
That's exactly where I'm going. So the more times you open and close a circle,
just make more work
the
for yourself,
weaker you've made the circle.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So if you think about what we're doing inside of our circle, what are we inviting? We're inviting sylphs and undines and gnomes and salamanders. We're inviting them in. Do they really have a place in the mundane world at large? I had a salamander in my house this past weekend, and I'll tell you, it was an expensive little buddy. Had to replace all my electrical because he blew it up.
Oh, boy.
Okay? But these things, these creatures don't necessarily have a physical place in the mundane world. And an undine might not understand that you really shouldn't poke a hole in a pipe because you can hear the running water.
Like, it's fun, actually.
They might think it's fun. You never know. These things actually, strangely enough, when you have an improperly cast circle and you're working with these creatures and something generally happens, the energies that were raised might go to the wrong area, to the wrong place. They might not understand. They might become confused. They might become scared. Think about it. If you're in a place you don't know, you're going to become scared as well.
It's like first day of the job.
Yes, like first day on the job.
What I found,
Okay, so it's best to not do those things. And then remember that once you have invited them in and you've played with them in your circle, you have to tell them to go home.
Mhm.
Okay, it's just as important to tell, yes, and you have to be very clear. Okay, everybody, time to go. They don't get that part. Thank you, self, go home, or whatever it is you called in. You need to just as nicely ask them to leave and thank them for their time.
I've always felt that working with the dragons, that, well, first of all, they demand respect. They are not going to tell you, oh, they're not, if you think that they are your servants, no, they are your equals in that situation. And they always have a tendency to come in, if you call them in, they're gonna bring all their energy. I've always told people, you better be able to handle the energy, because they come in and with all their energy. And sometimes it could be overwhelming for people who aren't used to that energy. And to them, it's normal to be that energy, that kind of power raise immediately kind of thing. And so that kind of effect may happen also, I'm guessing, that it's just like, whoa, where did that come from? And it's like, yeah, it's normal.
So it's just as important to let them know that you're done, that you thank them. Because, you gotta be nice, so they'll come back again. Thank them for their time. They expended their energy to be here, just like you're expending yours. So it's always a kindness. So when that's all done though, we don't just want to turn around and walk away. Just like every time here, when we're finished, we blow out our candles and we have our say and we dismiss the space, right? So once you've built that circle, you need to do the exact same thing. At this time, I would be doing it with Iacome, okay? And I would be going Widdershins, yes.
So I attended an out court gardening ritual at one point a while back, and they had a circle room, obviously, but I was wondering why the energy seemed so potent in there even after we left. And they had said, because it's a ritual room that no one goes in except for that purpose, they do not take the circle down or not release the elements. They just keep them up there all the time. So your feelings on that?
You can. Well, then I would simply say that's advanced.
Right.
Okay. All right. Just hold that, just placeholder, just bookmark it for a minute. Yep, there we go. Okay, so but to take it down, I would definitely use my half at that point. Of course, walking Widdershins or counterclockwise, going the opposite direction, and generally only one time because just like talk about Letha and playing with the Fae. Metal is very, very potent. The Athame should be very, very sharp. It is a real weapon. It's charged to be a magical weapon, so it will slice through that quite easily. Okay? But then to send the important thing, you don't just want to poke and stab at this thing, but to take it down. Right? You don't want to just poke and stab at it. You want to, hey, thank you for being here. I send this energy back into the ground where it is needed, or to where it's needed. So you want to physically talk about where it's going to go, what it's going to do, okay? Until it's called again. For ritual spaces that are used continuously for that. And this does apply, like, so those of us that were in the previous space,
Right.
we know how that felt. And we, walking through there, you could find particular times which is very calming. It's all the things that over the years have been built into it from doing rituals there.
Yeah.
Okay. The spaces that we use now are beginning to have those feelings we've talked about in the past. They're beginning to have that sense of communion, that sense of camaraderie, that safeness that you associate with. And so over time, it becomes easier and easier to draw the energy because the energy knows. They know, oh, this is what's going to happen. It knows. It becomes easier and easier to do those things. It becomes more and more powerful. And through time, you can almost just walk in and feel it and almost think you don't really need to do it, but you should always acknowledge that.
Yeah, yeah,
And some do maintain that. So when you say it was an altar room,
yeah,
and then that was the only purpose in that room.
Yeah.
Okay. And I am quite sure that they set their guards on that room
yeah,
so that everything would be contained there.
yeah.
Okay. So again, that they would have a designated order of the door,
Right.
that type of thing. It can work, yes.
Yeah.
If that's a designated, yes. And I'm gonna take a wild guess and say it was probably the high priestess's house, which means that she's there to guard those things, et cetera, et cetera. So
Well,
there's
is
a lot to go. It's just like any,
Yeah,
a Mormon temple, a Hindu temple,
yeah,
a synagogue, a
Yeah.
mosque. Those are very designated sacred spaces.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
So that is my feeling on it. It's
Yeah,
not
no,
all yes,
that's one thing, I agree with that, yeah, absolutely, yeah, that was my experience too, yeah, absolutely.
but 90% of what we do, we return the space to what it was because it has multiple purposes.
Right.
Any other comments or questions?
Well, the
Yes,
thing, I mean,
go
at other times, this is our living room.
Yes, exactly.
And right now, it's a sacred space where we gather and do magic, so we really, if you think about our classes, follow the product of a ritual. You know, we have the opening, we call in Avelina, and welcome everyone, and then we kind of gather, raise the energy, and then we dismiss those energies, and then it goes back to a more mundane purpose of watching Stranger Things.
Or Strange New Worlds.
Or Strange New Worlds.
Or just anything strange?
Which
No.
leads me to my
Or
other,
Moon Knight.
we are doing ritual, all of a sudden, kitty or doggy decides, oh, ritual time. And then some animals more inclined to magic than others. And I'm looking at you, Sheena baby. Boss ritual starts up and
That was funny.
yeah.
Well, Sweet Tea really doesn't seem to care much for magic,
Yeah.
except for the purposes of eating the ribbons.
I haven't really checked Tarkin or Gaia yet. Be very interesting that, oh, casting circle starts almost out of nowhere. I want to sit down right here. Come on, let's do
Right in the
magic.
middle.
And wasn't that the only time Sheena poked her nose up the whole week I was
That's
gone?
exactly what happened. It was.
So I wanted to share with you all a little bit of what we would do. So as I said before, I'm a member of a Blue Star tradition. And a little bit, it's associated a little bit with gardening, tiny bit, get friends in the same places kind of thing. So there it's very ritualistic. There's very certain sets, things we do in a certain way, and certain steps every single time. Okay. So we always start every circle with sweeping, and that's always done by the youngest unmarried, used to be youngest unmarried woman, at this time it's converted to pretty much the youngest unmarried person, because anybody really can't do it.
I like that.
So we always started with that. Anybody currently unmarried?
I can't say that anymore.
It's about time the men got to sleep.
Oh, yeah.
Neither can I.
I hate to ask, because you're probably younger.
Wow.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
I think it's
that's-
hard.
that's-
No,
It's
Matt's younger than me.
Oh.
Oh.
We're 6 months
Can
apart.
you be 32? Oh, you're married. Okay, that works. You're
Oh,
automatically
no.
out. Now,
Ouch.
what if there's no unmarried person? Well, guess what? Again, anybody can do it, okay? So,
Then you just
come on over, buddy.
When you go to the married. You know.
Well, that just means that Moon and I would just have to swallow. That's all.
All right, here we go. Popping and cracking. Okay, so east is here, correct?
Yep, east, west,
South,
So
north.
we always start, we always start in the east. Start and end everything in the east where the sun rises. Okay, it's just a particular way. So we don't step over there. So we're going to sweep this way. And while doing this, and you're gonna make one circle all the way around, okay? And while doing this, the poem, go ahead. The poem we would use would be Basum, Basum, long and lithe,
Basin, long and light,
made from ash and willow white,
made from ash and willow, like
tied with thongs of willow bark,
tied with thongs of willow bark,
in running stream at moonset dark,
in running stream at
moonset dark.
moonset dark.
With ye set pentagram indicted,
With sea
pentagram,
pentagram indicted
as the ritual fire is lighted.
as the ritual fire is lighted.
Sweep ye circle, Diosil,
Sweep your circles, Diosil,
sweep out evil, sweep out ill.
sweep out evil, sweep out ill.
Make the rounds
Make the rounds
of the grounds
of the grounds
where we do
where we do,
the ladies' will.
the ladies' will.
I like that.
And then ending in the east and taking the room upwards. And, oh, careful there, careful there.
Even a fan.
Yep.
So you
Sweeping the
were
table,
doing
making
the
sure nothing
cleansing,
schmutz.
No, better
Or-
or you get on the
Or
ceiling.
you'd have to get a new.
No schmutz.
so you were doing the sweeping docile?
I'm sorry?
So you were doing the sweeping, the cleansing docile?
Yes.
Oh, because I learned always to
Right
do
away.
it Widdershин.
If that works for you, fantastic.
Oh, yeah, it's your tradition. I forgot. Yeah.
It's really, the only wrong way is the way that doesn't work. And I understand, and I actually know someone, even with my own tradition, they can't do anything. So every time she does, something terrible happens. She falls down, something breaks. It's just, she works the opposite direction of everyone else, and it works every single time. So that's what works for her. She follows the other
Everybody's
clock.
energy is different.
Correct. Everyone is just a little bit different. Okay. So the next thing we would do, we would actually sense our circle. Okay. This is usually done by someone acting as the priest. Gentlemen, are you my lady if they care? Anyone
I'll do it.
wish to volunteer? All right, come on. I'm
Sure,
gonna go with
I'll-
the, cone incense because it's the easiest one to do. So we would add the incense to the fire. Okay.
Do you want me to still light it?
You know what? We cannot light it because I don't want to kill anybody. It's a pretty strong one.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I gotta get to the right page. All right, so it's. I've gotta think this again, slow down. It is air joins to fire.
Air joins the fire.
As we all join to each other.
As we are all joined to each other.
And you place it in your sensor. And you would walk the circle. One moment, it's the right page. Okay. Oh, goodness, terrible. I usually do these things on my own, so it's a little bit easier.
So I'm scanning all proper.
I know, right? I'm like, oh, get this down, I'm like all nervous. All right, so it's with sweet air
With sweet air
and sacred fire.
and sacred fire,
I do bless and consecrate this circle.
I do bless and consecrate this circle.
And it only takes once a month. Simply repeat that until you reach the keys again, and then we would set down.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. And then lastly, we would sense the circle. So we're going to add earth and water together. Ladies, anyone? Okay.
Okay, sweet. You would push me in there.
So we're going to take a little pinch of salt. We're going to add it to the water. Sprinkle it into the, oh, right here.
Oh, it looks like.
Yeah, I know, right? The blue. You're going to stir it with your finger. Salt joins to water.
Salt joins to water
And we all join to each other.
as we all join to each other.
So then you'll pick this up with your right hand, place it in your left. You're going to use your fingers. You remember the asperging? Dip your fingers and sprinkle very lightly. Now, this is the only time that we're actually going to start over here in the west, because for us, this is where our priestess is actually standing. This is where she starts from. Okay,
Just
so just slowly walk and sprinkle
on the ground or?
just lightly, lightly,
Yeah, okay.
not a ton.
I don't
You know,
like it.
it's not fabuloso. And I don't want to get all right.
I'm sure the cats are
And you're
just
gonna
pick
be
it up later or something.
with sweet water and strong earth.
With sweet water and strong earth,
I do bless and consecrate
I do bless and consecrate
this circle.
this circle.
So once around. And then place it back on the altar with your right hand. There you go. Thank you. And Bert, would you like to cast our circle?
Then bring your stick.
Yes, bring your stick.
Bring the stick.
Bring your stick.
Oh, bring my stick.
Yes. Because that will work just as well.
That is mighty good stick.
All right,
It's
we
an
will start in the
excellent
east. We will start in the east, okay? And the first trip around, and again, we're pointing slightly down now. And this would be to the outside of everyone here. Of course, we have walls here, it's a little tight. We're going to use our imaginations, okay? So round the circle,
Round the circle,
thrice about,
thrice about,
keep all unkind spirits out.
keep all unkind spirits out.
Round the circle,
Round the circle,
3 times spin,
3 times spin,
keep love and friendship
keep love and friendship
well within.
well within.
Tread the circle,
Tread the circle
3 times round,
3 times round,
that love and wisdom
that love and wisdom
may be found.
may be found.
So mote it be.
So
What'd you
mote
say?
it be. Yeah, the
it's
stick
really
is a
long.
little big for the space.
Mine is too big.
Yeah. You're just being Polly.
So at this point, we would ask our intent. So what is our intent tonight?
Stop the rain.
No, do
No.
not stop the rain.
It's flooding though.
No, it's not
Okay.
Oh, knowledge.
Tonight. Knowledge, thank you.
No.
Thank you. Knowledge
Learning.
and learning. And I hope that you have all learned something, a nugget somewhere. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Anyone?
What was the incantation with fire and air and fire?
Oh, air joins to fire as we all join to each other.
I missed that, but okay,
Air
yeah,
joins the fire as we all join to each other.
thank you.
Would it be possible to put, only if we're allowed to, no oath on stuff that you can't do, but would it be
I
possible?
wouldn't tell you anyway.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a secret.
That's true. Would it be possible to put on the grove the incantation words that you use for tonight's presentation? Because I like some of them. They were pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah, the Basin poem is actually, it's well published. Simply no one, chose to use and it works for me. So yeah, I'd be happy to. Okay, and same with the circle casting.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I thought you had your hand up, no?
This is very interesting tonight.
I was stretching out the arm.
Just stretching the arm, okay? And so then lastly, thank you all actually for being here, for listening, appreciate that very much. We are going to disperse it right back to the ground, okay? So it's, I send this energy back into the ground from whence it came. So let it be.
So motivate.
Must it be-
That stands
So
out.
basically, Jen, the only time you go widdershins is when you're closing the circle?
Yes, that is the only time I go widdershins, yes.
Okay. Very interesting.
But again, if that's what works for you, then we'll make that work for you.
I'm a baby witch, so even though I'm a crone, I'm a baby witch.
We're all baby witches in one way or another.
We all
Trust me, there's lots we don't know.
Now we're just getting deep.
we can always learn more no matter what our age or our experience level. which I think is really
Absolutely.
cool.
Absolutely.
It's funny how you're doing 3 different ways.
Mhm.
Because in one of the book series that I read,
Mhm.
mind you, this is fantasy.
Mhm.
They would first close the circle of water, then earth, and then the third pass route would be with air, and that would be the final seal.
I think
A lot of, the funny thing is a lot of fantasy writing actually has little nuggets of truth in there anyway.
And
As we all know.
we've done something like that in some of our
Mhm.
rituals that we've done over the past
Yeah.
years.
Well, I think it stands a testament towards, as contrary to what those, we all know, 1 or 2 of them that don't cotton to our beliefs, are the form of magic in the ritualistic sense, be it basics, have existed all throughout history in one form or another, the whole concept of including the elements and a circle or sacred space in a particular sense. So it stands to reason, in my opinion, that it would traverse into the literary world as well, to have that nugget of truth. And it's like, what the question is,
Open secrets.
yeah.
Open secrets.
And
So-
also, I think some fancy writers are pagans.
Oh, there's that.
Also,
So there's one last style of cleansing, and that's what's called lustration. So lustration
What?
is a ritualistic.
Lustration.
Yep, LUSTRATION, something like that. I'm a terrible speller, but but it is a ritualistic banishment. This is usually done by groups, and one of the ones that will pop to mind very easily, exorcism. Catholic exorcism. It's a
okay.
ritual banishment.
Mhm.
Birch, isn't there a Norwegian or a Viking style involving a horse's head or?
Yes, if you have the nidstone,
Mhm.
you take the horse's head on a stick and it's carved with, I believe the Isa and, Nalfi's runes. And you place it, in front of the house of the person you're basically, going after. And what that does is it stirs up or it drives away all the good house spirits. And it tends to attract the really nasty ones.
Hmm.
So, but it's a ritualistic through the action itself type of cleansing and
Yes.
banishment. So in addition to the things we do here, there's also that. So casting someone out of a circle. Let's say you have a member that's particularly troublesome, that does things they shouldn't do. It's particularly, for whatever reason, you no longer wish to be associated with, then you would cast them from your circle. And that is another form of cleansing, because in reality is you're actually cleansing your space of that particular person's negative energies.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be, doubly important because to a lot of traditional things, people who circle up generally tend to have that bond of family to be in the circle to begin with. So if someone is doing that and it's like, yeah,
We
that,
break, yeah, oath breaker.
Would sundering be like that too?
Yes, yes, the
To-
sundering would be exactly like that. Honestly, divorce is the same thing.
Mhm.
It's a ritual banishment. It's a ritual, it's a breaking to do that. So those things are happening in everyday world, and people don't even realize that it actually has basis.
The mundane world.
Yes, absolutely. The mundane crossing over, we should say, we're crossing over to the mundane.
Yeah, the sunderings can get really fun too.
That's your definition.
Fun with quotes
Oh,
around
the
it.
quoted fun, heard. Fabulous. All right. Well, thank you
One
very
of-
much, everyone. That's all I have for you today.
I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Amethyst, did you have a question?
You know, I was gonna say, one of the things that I love most about Wicca is that the only thing that really, really, really matters is your intention.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And all of the ritual, all of the tools, all of the pomp, circumstances, whatever, they are there just to emphasize and help promote. But the most important thing is your intention.
Mm-hmm.
I think Walter had a question on you, had something earlier.
No,
You're
And-
stretching out.
And says,
Mhm.
interesting content. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So let us stop our recording.